Broncos taking on Kansas City. They're coming off a thrilling overtime win on Monday Night Football against the Buccaneers. Broncos, tough loss against the Baltimore Ravens that, wasn't close on the scoreboard, although I continue to argue with people that I think this game was actually closer than the score indicated. It was 3 possessions at the beginning of the game for me with the Denver Broncos where, all right, you got a tip pass interception on the first possession of the game. Not ideal, obviously, on the road facing a team like the Ravens. So they're sort of down in that respect, momentum-wise. It's a turnover on downs in the right area of the field where you would want to go for it on 4th down. They just didn't get it. And then it was another turnover on downs after that. So 3 of their first 3 possessions for Denver, an interception, a tipped interception, a turnover on downs with the right decision, and another turnover on downs with the right decision. At that point in time, you're just too far behind the 8 ball. They weren't totally out of it on the scoreboard at that point in time, but you knew that the Ravens' avalanche of points was going to come. So you needed more out of those first 3 possessions, and Denver, you just was not in a place to keep up after that. So I'm not saying that I think the Broncos should have won that game, but I think that it should have been a lot closer than the final score indicated with Denver. Now they're taking on a Kansas City Chiefs team that remains undefeated this year. What is your matchup that matters here, Carmen?
No, I was with you too ahead of that game. I said that I did ultimately think the Ravens were going to win, but I did think it was going to be close. And I do think that it would have been had it not gotten off to such a rocky start for the Broncos. So don't do that, Broncos.
Good start. Good start.
Don't beat yourself. But what I'm really looking at is just how much DeAndre Hopkins has now mattered to this Kansas City Chiefs offense and how much Patrick Mahomes already trusts him in his Chiefs debut. He's throwing him balls into a double and triple coverage. And DeAndre Hopkins is rewarding that chance and coming down with these contested catches, which he is a receiver that Patrick Mahomes really hasn't had yet in his career, where the guy that he can just throw it up to and in a prayer, and DeAndre Hopkins is going to come down with that. So how does DeAndre Hopkins fare against these Broncos corners? I think is going to be a tremendous matchup that matters here. I mean, 8 catches on 9 targets for 86 yards for DeAndre Hopkins in his first game, 2 receiving touchdowns, 5 catches gaining a first down. I mean, he is now already so integral to this Chiefs offense. Can the Broncos corners slow him down? Got Pat Surtain, 76.3 coverage grade, PFF, and then his rank is the 9th, so he's top 10. Then you have Riley Moss on the other side, 43rd in PFF grade, 86.4, which is, again, among corners, which is good. He's doing very, very well opposite Pat Surtain, considering that he is getting picked on a little bit more because you don't necessarily want to throw it to Pat Surtain's way if you can help that. But is Pat Surtain going to be the one to be on DeAndre Hopkins? Can he win with his length on a guy that is so good at contested catches? That, to me, is going to be not only the match that matters, but the one that is just going to be fun to watch.
I'm looking at Bo Nix in this game as we kind of have to, certainly as a big time difference maker. And he's going up against a really tough defense in the Kansas City Chiefs and Steve Spagnuolo. But when you look at Bo Nix and who he has been as a rusher, among QBs, he's 5th in total carries. He's 5th in total rushing yards. He's 3rd in total rushes, gaining a first down. He's 3rd in rushing touchdowns, and he has 31 scrambles, which is the 2nd most. The Chiefs have allowed the 2nd fewest rushing yards to quarterbacks, or I think just overall, actually, now that I'm looking at it, so far this season. So this is a stingy group. I mean, they're a group that is really sound when it comes to how they defend the run, and I think a lot of that is, of course, towards running backs, but it could also be mobile quarterbacks too. And so I think that what Nix has been as an on-the-run type of a quarterback is something that he did well at Oregon that I don't think that he got enough credit for when he was coming into the league. And now we're seeing that be a major weapon here for this offense. It's a big reason why they're able to continue to move the sticks really well. I think it's a reason why they are surprising a lot of teams with the record that they have. Obviously, sitting here at 5-4, I don't think that they're necessarily going to, take down the Chiefs as the champs at the top of this division. But Broncos sitting at 5-4, 9 weeks into the season, I don't think many would have predicted that. And I think Nix is a big reason why. So I also think that throwing on the run is going to be a big deal, because it's one thing where the quarterback becomes a rushing factor for your offense. But if the defense knows that you're not really going to be much of a threat to throw the ball, even when you are out of the pocket, they can really sell out with those QB spies to just the second you start to move out of the pocket, boom, there is no hesitation. I'm going straight at you. I'm not thinking about coverage players. So does Sean Payton, who, well, I shouldn't be asking this question. I was going to say, does Sean Payton know how to take advantage of that? He does know how to take advantage of that. Can they implement that kind of stuff where they go, okay, hey, here's what we're going to do. We know you're a great threat with your legs. We know you can pick up first downs, pick up some extra yards. We're going to have you roll out a good amount in this game. And if the Chiefs don't come at you, take those yards right in front of you. If they do, we're going to design it to have a route that's consistently going over the middle behind wherever that linebacker is. I'm very curious to see the chess match between Sean Payton and Steve Spagnuolo in that area specifically when Nix becomes a runner. What do they do against one another? Are they selling out to go get him into the backfield? Are they sticking back in coverage because they don't want him to hit a pass over top? Because all those games and all that experience, I know we kind of made fun of Bo Nix a little bit for it, right? Like, get a real job, get out of college. How you still doing this, right? But all of those games, most games started in college football history. That comes with a high football IQ and a lot of things where you've seen a lot of stuff. So that's, I think, why we have got some good implementation of Sean Payton's offense already. And that's an area that I'm really looking forward to seeing how these two great coaches, offensive and defensive side of the ball, go after one another. Plus factor for you, Carmen. What do you got?
Yeah. We know that obviously the Chiefs have played in almost all one-score games, but there's also no one that you trust more going into the fourth quarter or overtime than Patrick Mahomes. And that's validated by the fact that he has an 89.5 PFF grade in the fourth quarter and overtime, which ranks first. 14 completions, gaining a first down on third and fourth down in those scenarios also, which ranks third. We saw it against the Buccaneers, and going into overtime is probably not a good idea against Patrick Mahomes. But this is a silver lining for the Denver Broncos and that defense in particular, because if this game is close, if you can keep it close towards the end of the game, that actually bodes well for the Denver Broncos, who are second in EPA per play against. So that they stand up in the fourth quarter and in overtime, according to metrics that we have, as far as EPA especially, you can kind of limit things for the Kansas City Chiefs. And in a division game against a familiar opponent, stranger things have happened. That's all I'm saying. And if we do believe in this Broncos team under Sean Payton, which they've given us reason to, especially defensively. If you can keep this game close, you could maybe pull it out, Denver. And that's something that would be very, you pulled off an upset last year too over the Chiefs. I think that can happen this time around too, given what your defense does well and how well that they can come in clutch.
Well, I think if they're going to do it, I think Troy Franklin's got to step up. I've talked about Troy Franklin, I feel like, so many times in this preview show because I'm waiting for him to really step up. He was Bo Nix's go-to guy in that Oregon offense, and it feels like he's trying to get there with them. Certainly, I think it was, 3-4 weeks ago, there was a stretch of 3 games where the threat percentage was above 20. They were really trying to get involved in the offense, but the last 2 weeks, now it's below 20%. So they're not really getting him as involved. The targets are still there. The catches are down, though. It's just they don't have that chemistry, and they need it because Troy Franklin is one of their deep receivers. And if you're going to beat the Chiefs, you got to have a couple of those plays. It can't just all be Courtland Sutton. So to me, the plus factor, I've said it a couple of times, people are probably sick of hearing me say it, but it has to be Troy Franklin because they have to hit a couple of those big shots if you're going to go into Kansas City and win this game. So Troy Franklin, to me, has got to be the plus factor here. The rest of the stuff has got to work out well. The offensive line's got to still block really well, which they have been over the last couple of weeks. Javonte Williams has got to still be able to play well on the ground. But ultimately, it's kind of like a turnover. I'm viewing it like that. You've got to be able to hit a couple of these deep shots here, even outside of Courtland Sutton. And I think Troy Franklin's the guy that needs to do it here. But what about you?
Yeah, that was...
you said the Patrick Mahomes one.
Patrick. It's okay. I was like, my plus factor is just the Denver Broncos defense in the quarter against Patrick Mahomes. But we can keep going.
Yeah, what's your plus factor? Actually, that's what we're gonna do.
Let's go beyond
that. Come with the extra credit here. No, I'm just kidding.